So today we will be talking about the Assure Instructional Design Model. The Assure model is an instructional system or guidelines that teachers can use to develop lesson plans which integrate the use of technology and media. And the Assure model
Visual literacy is the ability to interpret, negotiate, and make meaning from information presented in the form of an image, extending the meaning of literacy, which commonly signifies interpretation of a written or printed text. Visual literacy is based on the idea that pictures can be read and that meaning can be through a process of reading. The notion of visual literacy has been transforming the age of digital learning and reflecting the transformation of pedagogies for quite some time.
I'm going to talk about how to use audiovisual aids in teaching. This is such a good question, a good way to think about teaching, incorporating lots of audio and visual materials. And a lot of times you think of things like films when this subject comes up, but almost anything that provides something visual or something audio, an auditory experience for students can be considered an audiovisual aid. Thinking about all the multiple learning styles of students, this is a really excellent strategy because bringing in other modes can really help meet the needs of students who don't have the same learning style as the norm. Some of the materials you might think about are films. For example, if you're teaching a Shakespeare play, being able to watch it as opposed to just reading it can really help students to understand it, bring a new perspective to it. There's simulations online, for example, for a dissection. You can use a simulation to allow your students to have an experience that might not have been possible in the regular classroom. Another example is just an artifact. When you're learning about history, seeing some of the materials, for example, colonial hardware, or colonial things that were part of everyday life for 18th century families can be really eye-opening, can really bring a new perspective on that subject as opposed to just reading about it. Recorded oral history can be another great way to make it come to life, make a time period or a location that you're learning about more lively. And this is a very low-tech way to bring some audiovisual aids into the classroom. Even guest speakers can be considered an audiovisual aid. They're people that will make something much more lively, more interesting, and even be able to answer questions. So think about different ways that you can bring audiovisual aids into your classroom, and that will really help support students in learning.
What is the internet?
The internet is like a popular thing.
Some satellites up there.
I picture in my head with like waves of internet going to the phone.
Somebody told me a cloud once.
The internet is a lot like plumbing. It's always moving.
Most people don't have any idea where the internet came from, and it doesn't matter. They don't need to. It's sort of like asking who invented the ballpoint pen or the flush toilet or, the zipper. These are all things that we just use every day, and we don't even think about the fact that one day somebody invented them. So the internet is just like that. Many, many years ago, in the early 1970s, my partner Bob Kahn and I began working on the design of what we now call the internet. It was a result of another experiment called the ARPANET, which stood for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. It was a Defense Department research project. Paul Barron was trying to figure out how to build a communication system that might actually survive a nuclear attack. So he had this idea of breaking messages up into blocks and sending them as fast as possible in every possible direction through the mesh network. So we built what eventually became a nationwide experimental packet network, and it worked. Is anybody in charge of the internet?
The government controls it.
Elves, obviously elves.
The people who control the Wi-Fi, because then no Wi-Fi, no internet. T-Mobile, Xfinity.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Right?
The honest answer is, well, nobody, and maybe another answer is everybody. The real answer is that the internet is made up of an incredibly large number of independently operated networks. What's interesting about the system is that it's fully distributed. There's no central control that's deciding how packets are routed or where pieces of network are built or even who interconnects with whom. These are all business decisions that are made independently by the operators. They are all motivated to assure that there is end-to-end connectivity of every part of the network, because the utility of the net is that any device can communicate with any other device, just like you want to be able to make phone calls to any other telephone in the world. There's nothing like this that has ever been built before. The idea that what you know might be useful to somebody else, or vice versa, is a very powerful motivator for sharing information. By the way, that's how science gets done. People share information. So this is an opportunity for people to think up new applications, maybe program them as apps on a mobile phone, maybe become part of the continued growth of the infrastructure of the network to bring it to people that don't have access to it yet, or just make use of it on a day-to-day basis. You can't escape from contact with the internet, so why not get to know it and use it?
LAN plus LAN plus LAN equals WAN. Local area networks are just not enough to serve large businesses and enterprises that span many locations and facilities. Companies that extend across a large geographic area need a wide area network, or WAN, that is not constrained to one physical location. Consisting of multiple connected LANs, WANs enable users to share and access applications, services, and other centrally located resources among corporate headquarters, branch offices across the country, and data center facilities. Enterprises traditionally design WAN architecture around factors like capacity, bandwidth requirements, connectivity, and user access. Organizations can use virtual private networks, or VPNs, to facilitate connectivity and security between WAN sites. WAN challenges include network reliability, security, setting up new sites, and performance issues that arise from latency and bandwidth constraints. Companies can increase bandwidth through leased lines, but these typically come with a high setup cost. WANs also require antivirus software and firewalls to combat potential security gaps that might compromise all devices connected to the network.
So, this is the explanation of the lesson. Okay, students, one of the first thing you need to do is to go to Play Store on your device. The top you're going to type in animal type in keyboard. You're going to look for animal, type in lit, learn to touch, type right here. You're going to click on it, then you're going to install. After installation is complete, click open. Wonderful. Now, kids lesson. One, and this is where you begin. Now it gives the option and shows you how you are to lay your hand as we previously watched in the video. Now the letters you are supposed to type is you're going to type mostly with your left fingers and partially with your right. So you'll use only your right thumb for this one. But you're supposed to type ASDF as fast as you can. Let's go. Aha. Mistake. Let's go again. Now, my speed is 26 and 0 acceleration. So I got 26. The goal was to get 25, so that wasn't a good job. Let's try that again. That was a good job. Let's try that again and see if we can make better. This was a better run. I got 41 for speed and plus 2 for acceleration. Okay, so now you're going to try for me. This time you're going to type LKJ. Hello everyone, welcome to Tech Class. Before we begin, remember that a computer system consists of two major elements, hardware and software. In today's lesson, you will learn how to identify the basic outer hardware components of a computer. Now, computer hardware is a collection of all the parts that you can physically see and touch. Some hardware components are easy to recognize, such as the computer case, the keyboard, or the monitor. Before looking at the various components, it is useful to distinguish between two types of computers: laptop computers and desktop computers. We will be focusing mainly on the desktop computer for this lesson. The desktop computer consists of the computer case, a separate monitor, keyboard, and mouse. As the name suggests, this type of computer is typically placed on a desk and is not very portable. Okay now, so what are the external hardware components of a desktop computer? Now, let's start with the computer case. This is the metal or plastic enclosure that serves mainly as a way to physically mount or contain all the internal hardware components. Next is the monitor. This is also called the screen. It is used to display items from your computer or internet. The monitor also displays how the user interacts with the computer using the keyboard or the mouse. For the keyboard, this is basically a board with key as you see in the picture. The keyboard is an input device used with the computer that is similar to an original typewriter. Although the keys are similar to a typewriter, the keyboard has many other keys such as Alt, Alt, Option, Function, etc. Now, the mouse is another input device. The mouse tracks the user's motion and is used to move the cursor across the screen. The mouse has buttons such as click and right click. We also have other auxiliary hardwares such as the speaker, microphone, or printer. All these are attached to the computer to use as either input or output devices. Thank you for tuning into Tech Class. See you next time.